Hello, hello, Woodlawn Knights. It's Mr. Butler here. Trying to go ahead and use Screencast-O-Matic and a little YouTube instructional videos to see if we can help some of our my teacher brothers and sisters out there save a little bit of time as it relates to this thing that we're looking at, right? I don't know about you guys, but I was spending an inordinate amount of time writing my lesson plans, and I want to be very specific in my language. That doesn't mean that I was spending a lot of time planning my lesson, right? I view those as two completely different things. I was spending a tremendous amount of time filling this thing out, right? Because it is a social studies template in a Microsoft Word document, but I don't teach everything in social studies. I just teach U.S. history. So a lot of the things that were in here were either blank, so that I would have to go look that up and then transfer it over, or it was a generic item that I would end up having to come back in content and claim. I'd have to find that and put it over, whatever, go down, right? You can see all of this stuff. You're very familiar with it by now. And it was very labor intensive for me. So instead of just complaining about it, I thought that I would try to kind of look at what we have. And just as only having 3 years teaching, I still wasn't negative about TAP. It's supposed to give us more money, right? So I was trying to find ways so that all of the stakeholders' needs are met here, right? That Mr. Alexander and the district, Dr. Smith, right, the master teachers, and then us in the actual classroom are able to use this thing effectively. So what I decided to do was be like, hey, I can't really share this thing very well. I'm limited in what I can manipulate in Word. Let me get rid of this format, right? So what I did, because this is actually what everybody's looking for, right, that we meet these standards, this far left column, right? So what I did was I essentially took the far left column, right, and I started my own thing using the Google suite of products, where if you go ahead and go to Google, look at your little waffle cone up here, tic-tac-toe board, whatever you want to call it, drop down, you're going to go to Google Drive. I already got this thing open, bada bingo. Now we're in my Google Drive, and this is what I built. So I want to show you a finished product first, and if it's something that you like and it works for you, I can show you how to do it. And so now would be the time to bow out if you're like, I don't want to deal with any of this. So over here, you can see, right, that the left-hand column was essentially a cut and paste for me. This is exactly what the district Word format was. I've added a couple of things over here. We'll get to that in a minute. But I did not leave anything out, right? And let's just worry about column B, because once you get this thing formatted, you can copy and paste it to all the other 4 days of the week, and it'll migrate. But this is kind of how easy it is for me now, right? I have my I can statement. Let me get back to that just so I can show you the functionality and the drop downs now, right? U.S. history, I'm in Unit 1. My key theme, let's see, for today, let's talk about migration and settlement, right? Evaluating social and political, blah, blah, blah. We do dip into number 2 a little bit, historical thinking skills coming up, and blah, 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 blah. You're going to use timelines, political cartoons, maps, graphs, etc. Compare and contrast. Like it. Is it addressed on the EOC? Faux show. Content. Right? We already saw that up here. Western expansion. So I just went in and dropped down essentially like my chapter titles. Right? Claim. These are the things that you were having to write in before. Remember? How did different ethnic and cultural groups interact as a result of Western expansion? 2.1. Bell ringer. I'm going to throw some multiple choice questions up there. If you wanted to do constructive response, whatever. I like the multiple choice because it will give me some data. We can talk about that later. Instructional strategies. I made my own drop-down box. Based off of my very own curricular guide, right? So, if you can see as I got in this window over here, all I did was pull up, right, my curricular guide that the state of Louisiana gave me, right? Here we go, Unit 1, blah, blah, blah. All right, here we go, all of my guiding questions, content claims. These are higher order thinking questions, by the way. GLEs, coming down, sample activities, activity 1. Keep this in mind. So you see my GLEs right here. I already put those in, 2.1, 2.2. I left out 2.3 because I go a little slower than this thing. Materials list, maps, tables, graphs, blah, 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 right? So let me come back over here. So we're still in my window. Documents, hold on a second. We'll say National Archives. I'm going to throw some photos up here, right? Photos, we'll leave it at that, right? Modeling technique. What new skill will be taught? So we're going to say we'll use Think Aloud to show them how to use the teacher will demonstrate proper usage of the vocab self-awareness chart, right? But whatever. Intro, how will I do this? I'm a big fan of the crash course, so I'm going to say John Green's crash course, YouTube video, right? But that's my little intro, bam. Activities guided, boom. Let's say whole group, my activity, I got key concepts chart, that's what I'm going to model. I'll come back and fill in how I'm going to do that, right? Differentiated instruction, this is independent practice. So look at it like this, activities, right? Or modeling, right? I do, we do, I did, you do, right? So differentiated instruction for you do. I have a high sped count, so I'm going to differentiate my content. I'll come back and explain that. Early finishers, right? I like the peer-assisted learning. So if you're finishing early, it'll help out your teammate, right? Higher order thinking questions. Again, I'm going to pull my HOTS questions from Eagle or from my content. Let me pop this open. Where am I looking at over here? My content and claims, right? From this section, right? How do different ethnical and cultural groups, whatever. Just so you can see where I'm pulling this information up, right? I'm not making it out of thin air. And I'll just copy and paste that over here, right? Remediation technique, what am I going to do if you're not getting it? Let's say peer tutoring again. I like that, right? Enrichment activities. So let's say Kahoot, Quizlet. I give them options. I have computers in my classroom. Do they have phones? Or current events magazines, right? Let's make connections, right? Current events magazines, and they can read about all of the foolishness in our political climate right now. Thinking, pick two, right? So let's go. We're doing pretty much analytical and practical thinking today, problem solving. Like I said, we're starting off on basically vocab awareness. So identify relevant, irrelevant information looks good. Creating and designing your own vocab awareness chart and categorization of items, right? So assessment 2, focus quiz. I'll get back to that in a minute. Teacher observation. You always got to keep an eye on these knuckleheads. Closure activity. I'm a big fan of the Q&A. So I want you to understand in these drop downs, I went and made them match my curriculum, not the other way around. If the district wants us to answer these questions, I wanted to create my own answers and not the ones they spoon-fed us, right? And I wanted my own answers to come from my state curriculum, right? So get back over here. Boom. Lab library request. This is another good functionality. Let's say that I want to go to the library, right? In Google, right, we can hyperlink everything through the G Suite. Miss Berry was kind enough to add her calendar so that we can all see what's happening there. So this could very easily, with a little bit of access tweaking, we could fill these forms out that end up updating Miss Berry's calendar so that we could all look to see what labs are booked on what dates, and we could kind of automate that process and make it a little more transparent. Home learning, right? What are we going to do for homework? I push it through the Google Classroom, whatever. Also have digital textbooks. Let's just say Google Classroom assignment, something. Notes reflection after the fact. Data link. This is a thing that now we could really start to improve the relationship with our master teachers. These guys are kind of more into the pedagogy and the quantitative research, the analysis part of it, right? So this would definitely be a tool that could, if you give them your data, right? Look at my score, blah blah blah. That could probably turn into some pretty positive results for you in your class. Let's go back. Did I have an assessment portion up here? But look at it, right? We're at 10 minutes and 43 seconds down here, and I'm pretty much done with my day one lesson plan. Let's look at my I can statement, right? Because I'm going to write that. What am I going to do? Let's say value of the social and political, economic, and capitalism. I can identify key concepts and terms related to U.S. Western expansion. Since we're doing an introductory, right, whatever. And keep in mind, you don't have to save anything. So I'm moving down. Modeling is good. Intro, how we spark curiosity. That's pretty straightforward. You can also do, let's say I want to add how much time this takes, right? I'll come back and show you that in a minute. Right? We got to answer these questions right here. But so as you can see for day one, without me having to show you how to do all of this stuff, you pretty much have this thing down to under 10 minutes if you can get, for a day's planning, right? Under 10 minutes if you can get this. Now, the master teachers are going to come back and tweak it, and they can kind of help all of us out in that regard. But even though this day one is not done completely, I wanted to show you how much of an improvement you could make. And then I'm going to continue to put some additional videos to show you guys how to do this and how to be a little more, I don't know, what would you call it, streamlined, or increase some time management with the productivity tools from the Google Education Suite. Okay? Now what you want to do, bada bingo, bango, going to come in, hit your little share button, bam. Everybody is in here, right? Now if you don't want anybody to write on this thing yet, you can just give them a comment or just a view option. But let's just say, see, I already got it shared with Ms. Berry and them, whatever. You could add whoever you want. They're all in the system. Let me say English 3. We have the same teacher, so Ms. Billingsley, right? Billingsley. Boom, Caddo Schools. I would add her. She could give comments, whatever. Done. And that's it, right? So what you would essentially do is you would go in for each day. Let me come back over here. This is my scope and sequence, right? Let me open up my actual, right? Activity 1, that's Monday, right? So I'm going to go back in. These are my resources. Go back in and pull up activity 2, right? See where I've got impact, materials list, posters, markers, color pencils, dolls, perspective, dolls, Indian Act, perspectives, BLM, right? So let's come back over here. Let's come down to activities, right? Do I have it, right? Activities. Whoopsie. Hold on. Activity 2, Dolls Indian Act perspective. And you're going to build it like that, right? You're going to just build out your week based off of your state curricular guide. So that's really it. I'll put up another video to show you guys how to actually format those drop-down boxes. So hopefully we're good to go. 15 minutes in, probably a little long. Let me edit this thing up, and hope it helps. Holler at me if you need some further assistance.